Hi everybody, welcome. Tammy from Homesteading in the City with Tammy. Today's video we are going to do, and I said in my last video that I needed to do a cover for my chair that I have here. So that is what we're going to do today, is to make a cover for my chair. If that is something that interests you, stick around. Okay, so before we get started with the tutorial on how to make a cushion, make a cushion to fit a chair and to cover it, I wanted to welcome everybody to my YouTube channel. Thank you for stopping by. For those of you who are new, first time here, thanks. I appreciate you stopping by and watching my video. I hope it's entertaining and I hope you learn something from it. For those of you who have subscribed, I really appreciate you subscribing to my channel. It really warms my heart that you guys are subscribing to my channel and watch everything that I put out each week. For those of you who have not subscribed to my channel, please consider doing so. It does benefit me by you subscribing to my YouTube channel. And it is free. It costs nothing for you to subscribe, to share my content, and to like and comment down below. Those are all things that will help my channel grow, and it's free. It doesn't cost you anything to do that, and it really will allow my channel to start growing. It has been growing on a regular basis, and I am pleased with that. In less than a month, I will have been doing YouTube for a year. I have a challenge out that I am doing, that I am going to be giving a giveaway on the 1-year anniversary. And the information will be on that March 26th, I believe it is, video that I have put out. No, March 19th video, sorry. March 19th video that I put out will have all of the information on how to get registered for the giveaway. But I'm hoping between now and then, I will have 500 subscribers. So that's kind of my goal, is to be able to, at 1 year, to be able to say that I have now 500 subscribers. So please consider subscribing if you have not already. So let's get into the tutorial. So we're actually going to be doing two cushions. I am going to do a seat cushion. As you can see here, this is what I bought for that. And then I'm going to do a foam pad to sit on top of that that'll go for the back cushion, so that I just have a double cushion. I'm probably going to put ties on the top cushion so that I can tie it right here, put ties so I can tie it around there so that it'll stay where it needs to be instead of sliding through the opening on the bottom. So that's my plan. I got this foam. I measured my chair and I was able to get pre-cut foam at Walmart. That I don't have to cut, and I can just make a square for there. It's a little tight back there, but I'm okay with that because that'll make it so that it won't slide in and out on that. I was going to round the corners, but I don't think I'm going to now. My seat itself is a little bit rounded on the back corners, but I think having the square foam there will make it so that it won't slide in and out once I get the cover on it, because the foam, of course, doesn't slide right now, but once you put a cover on it, it'll get a little bit slippery. So I'm hoping with it being not making the corners round at the back, I will be able to, it'll keep it from sliding through, because it'll be hitting here, and not slide through. So that's my plan. So I will show you how I'm going to figure out my material for my cushion. So this is also the other foam that I have. It came in a 4-pack. I used one of them for my ottoman, to put extra foam onto my ottoman. And there's 3 pieces left, and 2 of them will be about the thickness that I have for this foam that I bought for the seat. So I'm going to, once I get the seat cover figured out, I'll figure out exactly how big I need to make the back cushion, and then I will make that because it's too tall. It stands up quite a bit taller than what I want it to do. So I will figure that out once I have my cushion made, so that I know how to cut this foam. So let's get started with figuring out how to measure out our material. So the measurement on the foam says it's 18 by 18 by 2 inches thick. I am going to remeasure it so that I know for cutting what I need to make. You want to just remeasure just to make sure that it's not bigger than that or a lot smaller. If you do 18 by 18 with a 2-inch sidewall, you'll end up, it might be too tight. It might be way too big for the foam inside. So it's always a good idea to remeasure the foam just to make sure that you have the exact measurements so you know what you are measuring for. Okay, so we'll get our tape measure here and we will measure. So it is just a little over 18 that way. Just under 18 that way. And let's see the thickness of it. And it is 2 inches thick. Oh, there you can see that. It is 2 inches thick. Okay, so 18 by 18 is what they're telling us the size is. So that's about the right size. We need to... So I have a lot of extra material. So I'm going to cut this piece that I have on the table right now off at 23 inches. It's a lot bigger than I need, but I'm going to cut it off there, or 20 inches, so that I can square it up and make sure that I get a nice size. I don't want to go too small because you have to add onto your side for seam allowance. So you have a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So you want to add a 1/2 inch all the way around your pattern. So we need a 18 by 18 square. Then with the 1/2 inch seam allowance, we need to do a 18.5 all the way around, 2 18.5 square pieces. And then we will figure out our strip to go on the side. We want to make sure that we can easily get our foam inside the bag that we're making, but we don't want it to the point that it's too tight that we can't get it in, or too loose. So it really matters how you sew when you're, what your seam allowance is when you are sewing. Do you use a 1/2 inch? Do you use a 5/8? Once you figure that out, that's how much you can add to the perimeter of your cut to allow for your seam allowance and still have the size that you need. So I'm going to get this cut off to probably 20 inches so that I can square it up, because it, as you can see here, it's not square. So I'm going to get it so that I can get it nice and square, and then I will make sure that I get my 18.5 square piece cut out of that. So let's get that cut. Okay, so now that I have a nice square piece, I can figure out actually, now that my piece is squared up, let's put it that way, I can figure out what where I want to make my cut at and even everything up. So I want to do 18.5 inches, and of course you can see the selvaged edge here. I'm going to try to pull those together so that they are right together, and then I'm going to put that on the line here so it's nice and square, and then I'm going to, at 18.5, slice that off. And of course my cutter that I have has, I don't know if you can see them, they don't show up real well. Maybe if I do it like this. It has quarter mark lines. So I actually quarter, half, 3/4, a whole. So it's got quarter mark lines. So I know that I can go right here, and that's my 18.5. So that I can put, when I put it down here at the bottom at 18.5, I know that that line in the middle that's got the numbers on it is my half mark line, and I can square everything up, and I can get a nice good square cut on this. Okay. So now that I have that cut, we can figure out, we can cut the other end. Seeing that it's 18.5 there, I can cut it down here on this line. and get that cut. Okay, so now I have my 18.5-inch square. And I want to use this material for my sides, just to bring in, because this is what I used for my curtain. So I want to bring this material in along the sides. And I have a 2-inch side, so I need to have 2.5-inch stripes to go along the sides of that. I can have, I've got a couple of different ones here. I can make them 18 inches long so that I can sew each one of them on, miter them in the corners, and then sew them to the other side of the bag. Or I can make it one long strip and pull it all the way around. If I have enough to do one long strip, I will do that. If I don't, then I will put them into sizes and actually have them stop at each corner. So I will have 18 inches or 18.5 inches strips at 2.5 inches wide. It's probably what I'm going to do because it does not look like I have enough to do it all in one length all the way around. So we're going to have 18-inch pieces, 18.5-inch pieces by 2.5-inch stripes. So I will get those cut out, and then I will show you how I'm putting that together. And of course you will need 4 of these to go all the way around your piece that you just cut. Okay, so I was able to get all of my pieces out of that one strip that I had. So I was able to get actually more out of it than I thought. So now I'm just going to pin these all the way around, and then I will deal with my corners after the fact. And I'm going to pin them because it's just going to be easier. I will end up running over my pins when I sew. That way nothing moves because I'm going to want it exactly where I want it. And I don't want it to possibly shift on me. So I will put each one with a pin, and then I will come back and run over that. But I'm just going to go around and pin all of these, dealing with my corners in a minute. So let's get this all pinned, and then I will show you what I've got. Okay, now that we have all of our sides pinned down, the next thing I want to do is you want to meet up your corners on the sides of these. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the sewing machine. We're going to sew these sides down. That way when we go to do the corners, I can show you how we're going to do and get a nice mitered corner. So now we're going to take it to the sewing machine, and we will sew all 4 sides right here once you pin these together, and then I will show you what we need to do for sewing it. So let's take it over to the sewing machine. Okay, again, I'm not going to show you how to use your sewing machine, how to thread your sewing machine. This is my sewing machine. Everybody has a different one. So you thread your sewing machine the way you do, just a regular stitch. And then we are just going to put these 2 pieces together. And then we are just going to sew down here with the seam allowance that you have given yourself, making sure that you backstitch at the beginning and at the end so that it does not pull apart. And we are going to do all 4 of our corners this way, and then I will show you how to sew the miter part on the corner. So get those all sewed, and we'll be right back. Okay, so now that we have all 4 corners sewn on the side, pick a spot to start where it is away from your corner so that we can go back and do the corner after we do that. So I'm gonna just start here in the middle of this, leaving my seam allowance, and I'm just going to stitch down, and I will show you what I'm going to do with my corner when I get to it. And again, if your pins are like this, most of the time your needles will run right over them. Some people do not like running over their needles, so they do pull them out just before the needle gets to it, and that's fine. You don't have to run over them. Like I said in one of my videos, my mom always ran over hers, and that's just how I did it. So for our mitered corner, we are going to, okay, that's in there. Okay, we have our seam here. We're going to put it right up into the corner here, and we're going to hold it flat because we're going to stitch right here, and we're going to stitch right off of it. Making sure that we backstitch right there. Okay, cut. We're going to rotate our material and fold this back the other way. And then we're going to start in the corner and we're going to stitch right over that corner. We're going to stitch right around to the next corner. I'll bring you back when we go to do that next corner so that you guys can see again how I did that corner. You don't need to listen to me sew this around. I'm just sewing a straight stitch all the way around, but I'll bring you back just before I get to that corner. Okay, so we're almost to the corner again. Again, fold it so that you have your seam out here on the outside and it's nice and straight there, and you can fold in, making sure you don't have too much of your corner in here so that it balls up. So just make sure that you have it nice and straight there, and then you can stitch your corner. If you need to pin, you could absolutely pin this. I can just pretty much hold it with my finger and get it in, and also remember to backstitch so that it will not come out. Okay, pull that pin out. I'm going to rotate around, and then we're taking, this is where we just sewn here, we're going to take this and flip it back on itself so that we can stitch right down through here. So with my needle. And then we're going to stitch this right around. And we're going to do that again for 2 more sides. So I'll bring you back and show you what that looks like after we get done with our other sides. Okay, so now that we have all 4 of our sides done, we'll just trim up, take out our needles, because I didn't remove them as I was going. And then I will show you, well, some of them I did, I guess. Trim up my strings, and then I will show you what our corners look like here. Okay, so once we do that, see how nice we get a mitered corner right there, and that seam is going right up the center of that. Okay, so now that we have that done, we can go ahead and, oops, there we go, pull my strings out. I forgot to say, and I probably should have done that, this material frays really easy, so see that nice mitered corner there. Usually I use a serger on this. I should have actually went and cut this out with pinking shears instead of the rotary cutter. It would have definitely kept it from fraying as much as it's going to. Usually when I do any kind of material like this, I use my serger. It does that overlock stitch, but my serger is not working at the moment, so I don't have that to do. So we'll just have to see what we're going to do here. Okay, so now that I have that, now I can pin on my top piece, making sure that I leave one part of it open in the back so that I can get my foam in there. I'm going to pin it the same way, starting this time in a corner so that you can work yourself out so that the corners meet and you don't have a ball in the corner. So go ahead, we'll get that ready. So I'm going to actually take my pinking shears around to at least one side of these, because this is this, it's going to be open and I'm going to have to hand stitch that. I might be able to top stitch on the machine, but I'm going to do around with pinking shears just so that I can, it's not going to fray as I try to hand stitch this back. Since my serger, usually I would have taken this piece and ran it around my serger to get an overlock stitch all the way around it, and it would keep it from fraying out as I went to work with it. Okay, so now we're going to take our corner and we're going to match it right up into the corner, and we're going to pin that because we want to make sure before we pin it all the way around that we got our corners matched. And then we'll go to the next corner, stretch it out and match it into the corner. Do that on all 4 sides, and then you can pull your fabric around to making it meet along the sides and pinning it so that as you sew around, you don't have gaps. And if you need to separate this, separate this here and pin it into that corner, that's fine. So it's not all balled up. And then the last corner here. And then this corner that's got the pinking shears on it, it will be my corner that I hand stitch. So I will leave that open so that I can get, so I won't put any pins here, so it reminds me not to stitch along this side. So now I'm just going to go up through here and hold this tight and pin it so that I don't have any gaps or any puckers as I go to sew. And that's what's nice about running over your needles or your pins as you sew. If you get it so that there's no puckers in it, it should lay flat and you shouldn't have to worry about all of that when you're done with it. It'll lay flat and it'll sew right over. You've got it tight enough and allowing it to lay flat. And the more time you take on this, the easier it is when you go to sew that it just lays nice and flat. So it takes a little bit of time to do this and get it through. But I always like to take the time to do this so that I don't have to worry about it puckering on me as I go sewing it. Because the material in your feed dog won't move as much between your pins if you have a lot of pins in there. And then this is something that you can, you could possibly sew right around when you started sewing and do your seam allowance right around. Not have to run off the edge. You can absolutely run off the edge if you want to and do your corners like you did before. You're not going to, won't be doing them the exact way as you did before because you're adding, you have nothing to flip over because you are attaching this to the other side of the bag. So usually I just run right straight across, right around the corner on this one and just miter my corners the best I can as I'm doing. This is going to be the bottom of your bag. So if this doesn't match perfectly, that's okay. You've got a nice mitered corner on the top. So if this one's a little wonky, it's not too bad because it would be the bottom of your cushion because you are going to have to hand sew. I'm going to see if I can't with the foam be able to do a top stitch after I get that in there, and it would show on the outside, but see if I can't do a top stitch on that. We'll see. But you're going to want to definitely at the beginning and the end of each side of this to do your back stitching so that you have a good stitch there, so when you go to put your foam in, you don't rip that out. So okay, so let's take this over to the sewing machine and we will get sewing on our sides. So taking the time to make sure when you sew this that you do not have this piece right here folded under the wrong way. So you want to fold it back this way when you start, so that when you do your stitch, it's right there along the inside. Making sure you do that all the way across, that this is folded flat and it's out of the way. You do not want to sew over it and stitch it into this side of the bag, because it's basically a bag we're making to hold a cushion. Okay, so let's cut our seam allowance, do our back stitch. We're just going to head along, making sure that everything matches as we go. Holding our material taut so that it does not pucker. Okay, and fixing when you have to fix. It's okay if you have to slow down and fix things. That's fine. And then when you're getting to the end, making sure that you have your corner where you need it to be. Like I said, if you want to, you can run off your corner. And that's probably what I'm going to do, because I'm going to readjust. And make sure I back stitch. And then I will readjust all of this here so that I do not have that. See, and okay, what I did here, I came across here, out here, I stitched here, stitched off, then I'm pulling this so that it's laying back against itself there, so that when I have this laying flat, and I can stitch down through here to do my corner. Pull my needle out, because I can't use a needle that way, it won't go through the machine. And then just put that up there and start stitching again all the way around. I will show you here in a minute how I do the corner again. Again, making sure that you've got this nice and flat, because you don't want the side seam to get stitched in with this. So making sure that it's not in there. Okay, getting close to our seam here. Again, making sure that this is nice and flat here. I'll get the pen out of my mouth, I can talk. Making sure this is nice and flat here so we get a nice flat corner. And again, we're going to take, this is where we have it, this is going to get pulled back this way along what we just sewn, and then rotate our bag around so that we can have this piece laying flat against the bottom of the machine. And then, oops, sorry, I keep hitting the camera. And then being able to stitch right down here. And again, keeping it nice and taut so that it allows no puckers to be in this as you're sewing. Okay, and making sure that we have our corner as we're coming up to it, that it's out of the way and not underneath it. And then remembering to backstitch Okay. Well, that is our bag done. Let's turn it inside out and let's see if we can't get our cushion into it and see how it fits. Okay, so in my last video I had said if you have foam that does not have a covering over it, you might want to put some kind of interfacing or something over top of that. So I had this thicker fleecy type interfacing that I was going to put over top of this before I put it in the bag. It just allows it to hopefully go in the bag a little bit easier. It's not down on the sides, it's only on the top and the bottom. But I'm turning my bag, just making sure that I'm spraying out each corner. Whoops, if I can see each corner, and making sure that I caught each corner for one. Looking to make sure that there's nothing, no seams open. And then I'm going to fit this into my bag. I'm going to possibly put it in half to get it in there, and then hopefully once I get it in, it springs open and it will lay flat. That's the plan. Not sure it's gonna work. So there, it is in. There's my cushion. It's nice and in there, and then all I have to do is do my hem here and just fold each piece in, pin it so that I can hand stitch it. I'm gonna actually see if I can't possibly stitch it on the machine and do just a top stitch for the bottom there. But we'll see. I'm gonna pin it and see what I can do. I'll let you know. So making sure that you can get all of your layers with a good, this is where it's nice if you've ran it through a serger, you have a seam here that you can actually pinch together, but making sure you fold those under and getting both of them and doing a pin through them. If you have to hand stitch it, then you would go through and hand stitch all of that. I'm gonna see if I can't actually stitch it on the machine. We'll see here, but it's just going to go through and kind of fold my hem over and pin it all the way across here. So I will show you what it looks like when I get done. Okay, so now that we have it all pinned up, I'm going to take it over to the sewing machine and see if I can't position it into the sewing machine to possibly stitch along there. We're going to see, because I really don't want to hand stitch all that. But if we do, then I will just hand stitch, and it's just going to be a slip stitch. Running stitch all the way across. I will not show you guys how to do that. I'm not good at it. I don't like hand stitching if I don't have to. So hopefully I can get it to go on the machine. So let's go over there and see if we can try. Well, I was not able to sew that on the machine. So I'm going to have to hand stitch all of that around. Like I said, I'm not going to show you how to hand stitch. I think everybody knows how to. It's just a running slip stitch that I do along here to stitch this in so that it holds, and then we will start on the back cushion. So I will show you what I'm going to do there. Okay, so now that we have it all seamed together, we have our cushion. I'm going to put it on the chair, and then we will figure out how big we need to make our back cushion. So let's go do that. Okay, so there is our cushion on the chair. And then this is the back cushion that we have. It won't go all the way across. It's not, they're square and they're not quite wide enough. So they'll be a little bit narrow, but that's okay. I want it to touch the top of that and be to the top of the chair. So let's measure here. So we're going to take that much off of our cushion, and we're going to do 2 of these. I don't think I need 3. 2 will give me the thickness that I want. So I'm going to cut my 2 of them this thickness, and then we'll see where we're at. And when you're cutting foam, you can cut it with a razor knife, or what works really, really good is an electric knife to be able to cut right through it. You measure it down, but you can also cut it with your razor razor cutter. Your circular cutter, your rotary cutter will work. You can squish it down with the line, if I could think, with the cutting tool that you have. You can squish it down with that and give a nice straight line and cut through that. But if it's really, really thick, a electric knife works really, really good on the foam. So let's get this cut and then we'll see where we're at. Okay, so now that's cut. That'll be the perfect height for the back of the chair. And like I said, I'm going to put ties on it for each side so that it will stay where it needs to be and won't fall through if you push back on it. So now that I have my foam the size I need, I can figure out what size I want to make my bag again. So let's figure that out. So we'll get our tape measure out again and we will measure our foam. I know that it's 13 inches the other way, so let's see what it is sideways. It is 16 inches by 13 inches. So we will need to make a piece of fabric, and it with this thickness together, let's see how thick it is. It's just about 2 inches thick. Okay, so 16 wide by 13 tall and 2 inches, almost 2 inches thick. So we can go a little bit shy. We probably could do a 2-inch strip instead of a 2.5-inch strip around to do our sides. Because it's just under 2 inches. Okay, so I'm going to do the same as I did the last time. I'm going to cut out my 2 pieces, and they are going to be, since we need 16 wide, we're going to do 16.5 by 13.5, and that gives me a 1/4 inch seam allowance. It gives me a 1/2 inch seam allowance all the way around. So I will cut those out, and then we will get sewing on these cushions. Okay, so this time I took my pinking shears and I cut that off with the pinking shears. We'll get our 16 inches wide by 13 inches high. We'll be able to get that cut out of here, and I will do that with the pinking shears when I cut that down. I'm going to leave this salvaged end here. Actually, it's not salvaged on the other side, so I'll cut that with the pinking shears as well. Got it all squared up, and then I'm just going to make sure that I cut it 13.5 inches by 16.5 inches so that I have my seam allowance. So let's get that cut. Just wanted to get that side, so with 13.5, get that on our line for 13.5, and then we know we can cut down here at the bottom on this line here. And I think actually I'm going to slice it with the rotary cutter a little long and then trim it with the pinking shears, just so that I get it nice and I get enough that I need. Okay, so now I can just take my pinking shears and cut this got to figure out our 16 inches wide. Or 16 and a half inches wide. Okay. It's a little easier to cut when you can cut on a line here. Okay. So there we go. So there we have our 13 by 16 piece cut out with pinking shears so it won't fray as much. Now we're going to cut out our sides, and again with the sides we can do them, we had those pieces. I can do 2-inch sides instead of 2.5-inch sides because I have the extra width there. So we're going to do 2 at 13 and a half and 2 strips at 16 and a half inch length, along with them being 2 inches wide. So let's figure that out here. I had some short pieces from another thing I did. Oh yeah, those will definitely do, maybe one of these will do all of it. It's over 16 inches long. Let's see if we can get 3 2-inch stripes out of this. Okay. Okay, let's get this cut. Oops. Hit the camera. Okay. Mm-hmm. Not quite. We're only going to get 3 out of it. That last little piece was not quite long enough. So, okay, we got 3. 2 of them need to be 16, so these 2 are still stuck together, 16 and a half. So we will cut those, and those are 16 and a half pieces. And then this one's going to be our 13 and a half piece. So let's get that at 13 and a half. Okay, gotta get one more 13 and a half piece. Again, I have another bunch of these pieces here. Let's see if we can't get another strip off this. Cut it off this side. Down that line, 2 inches. Okay, and then we'll cut that to our 13 and a half inch length. And it's nice if you have a cutting mat that you have on the table that you can lay things to and measure that way. Those work really nice. And they are very accurate. Okay, so now that we have that cut out, we're going to do the same thing as we did before. Putting our pieces all around with right sides together all the way around this, and then we will stitch it like we did before, and then we will put our cover back on it. So that is how we are going to figure out our cushion for the top. I will show you what it looks like when it gets done, because I don't think you need me to go through the whole thing again as far as showing you how to pin this, how to sew this, and stuff it. So I will get this done, and then I will show you what it looks like when I'm done. Well, I got it all put together, and then I realized I did not put my ties on the sides. So there's not going to be ties on this one. But if I was to put ties on them, I would have put them right here in the middle on the back part of it so that they could go over to tie onto the chair arms itself. But I got it all done, all hand stitched together, and realized I didn't put the ties on it. So I'm not going to take that all apart. It's just not going to have ties. Hopefully it'll stay where it needs to stay and it won't keep falling down. I hope. We will see. If it does, then I might have to take it apart and put ties on it, or I might have to hand stitch some cord or something on the outside of it. I don't know. We'll see how it works and see what I have to do. But I got it all done, so that is it. Let me show you what it looks like on the chair. So this is what it looks like on my chair. Happy with it. It matches my footstool. So now I have my chair and my footstool all put together, and the little strip of that matches the curtain that I have. So just wanted to tie the whole room together with my cushion and my ottoman with my curtain. Okay, so that is it for today's video. Well, everybody, that was it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial on how to figure out a cushion and then figure out a pattern for making a cushion, being able to cut the foam, measuring, and being able to make a covered cushion for a chair. If you have a cushion already, it would be kind of like the ottoman that we did the video on, where you would just take the measurements from that to cover your cushion with, and to be able to make a cover that way. You could take your cushion cover apart if it's ripped, or if you just want to do new colors. But I hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and if you have not subscribed, please consider doing so. It does benefit me by you subscribing to my YouTube channel. And as always, I will see you on the next one. Bye!